Okay, who wants to share first? What big ideas you found in your article?
This one talked about how like children naturally can think about numbers or think about like value in numbers. And so that's kind of like the introduction, and it goes into like how children solve different word problems and how important it is for teachers to have a variety of problem types that they pose. And it gave a ton of examples of like, I didn't even realize that there were this many examples of problem types, like
Oh,
a page and a
yeah,
half.
yeah.
And it even showed like the one that I'm shooting for this lesson is a multiplication problem, and so it kind of matches like what I've come up with my mentor. And then it kind of concludes by saying like when children can use their strategies to solve problems, they come up with their own forms of number sense, and then we are expected to aid them in their problem solving. So we're kind of like a guide using their own sense of how to solve a problem.
Yeah. So when you think about the lesson that you're going to teach on Friday, what seems important from that article?
Definitely the problem type seems important, as well as knowing ways that they're going to solve it, and then being able to analyze how they solved it, and then be able to lead a discussion that will invite students to share their strategies.
Yeah. So they can build on that intuition that they have. What were the insights from your article?
They talked about ways you can basically support and extend mathematical thinking through a lot of conversations, and there were two main themes, which were what you can do before correct answers given and what you can do after. And I didn't read everything in detail, but like with some of them for before is to enter the child's mind, just to like, that's the main thing, is to try to process what they're thinking. So one is to make sure that the student understands the problem, so that can be either like rereading it, and then if they don't understand it then, or break it down for certain like smaller parts of meaning, then you can elaborate. Like they gave an example where they made the problem applicable to, because they're all story problems, made it applicable to the classroom itself, and like put the student in the problem. So it's still the same problem, they just elaborated on it so that students could like have a deeper understanding. Another was changing the math to match where the child's level of understanding is. So like do simpler numbers maybe at first, and get them thinking, or maybe change the structure of it. So if it's taking away but they're having a problem with it, rephrase it so it's like a similar numbers but they're adding instead. Like they rework the problem, and then exploring what students have already done. So saying, can you tell me how you solved this? So they articulate what they did so they can find their mistake.
Yeah, pause for just a second. That's a good question. Say that question again.
Can you tell me how you solved this?
Yeah.
Or what did you do first was their other one.
Yeah.
Which that's what I've
Seems
seen
really
my mentor
important.
teacher ask, like, how did you solve this?
Yeah. And what did you do first? Okay. I feel like we should have a question bank where we have really good questions for math lessons.
I would love that.
That
I
sounds
think that
like
would
it'd
be
be
really
helpful.
helpful.
Yeah, especially for discussion. Like I feel like
Yes.
I just need some like prepared questions so I know how to keep it going.
Yeah.
Because my students won't keep asking questions. They'll just kind
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today, whenever a good question comes up, I'll try to jot it down so we can have a list. And you can put it somewhere where you can look at it during the lesson if you need to. I wonder if somebody's coming in here too. Do you need this room?
Sorry.
Do you need this room?
Are you
Huh?
ready?
Yeah, but I can turn it off.
I just wanted to get something off the printer.
That's
It's my
fine.
Planning period.
Yeah, no. No need to apologize. Good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, so we got two good questions. What else did you find?
They talked a lot about reminding children to use other strategies, because they can get like caught up in in a strategy, and if they can't do it, like becomes unproductive. So one was like kids were counting on their fingers and they were adding, but they counted 4, and then the next problem was a part was telling them to count to 7, so they put their 4 fingers down and recounted to 7, and then was confused because it was only 7.
Yeah.
And so just redirecting them, like, can you use a different tool? and so she changed to cubes.
Mhm.
So redirecting, reminding them previous strategies. This was really long.
Yeah.
And then after they have a correct answer, just to promote them to reflect on what they've done. So,
Wait a second, was there a question in that last part? No, that just
it was
using,
want to try it with cubes
Oh,
was the
yeah.
question they asked.
okay.
So I think I've seen my mentor teacher say, "Can you solve it another way?"
Yeah.
But I think that's more when they've
Right.
successfully solved it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because that's what that question here was.
But in terms of like the different manipulatives, it's like, what else could you use to show
Yeah.
show your work is the right thing.
Is there another
To solve
way
the
to
problem.
solve the problem?
What else could you use to solve the problem?
Yeah.
Maybe. What else could you use to help you solve the problem? Could you use to help you solve the problem? Okay, keep going.
Sorry. And then it shifts to after a correct answer is given. So one thing you can do is have them reflect on their strategy that it just did. So ask for them to explain and clarify what they did to make sure that the thinking is clear. And then encourage them to explore another strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So asking them to solve it another way. That's as far as I got. But then it's connecting it to symbolic notation. Oh, so actually like writing out like
Yeah.
the number sentence and then generating possible follow-up problems if they breeze through it.
Like, does it give the example of using harder numbers or that kind of thing with the same story problem, or is this kind of a different approach? Never mind, I remember
Yeah, I
you didn't have a
get to
chance
this
to read
part.
that. Yeah, so far I have 1, 2, 3, 4 problems for our list. We'll see if we can add to that. My article was called Mathematical Pattern Hunters, and I read like this book and then talked about it with kids, and they said the kids came up with the name for themselves that they wanted to be called pattern hunters.
Mhm.
And so then they made their own TENS books. So like they created pictures where it was so many groups of 10 make whatever, like the crab in this book. And so that was kind of a fun idea, because then it talked about how they used the books they created to talk about the different ways that they had problem solved and to use them as examples. Let's see, what else did I highlight in here? There was a question, can you show me where these numbers came from, for a student who didn't show their work? So I thought that was a good one. I'll write that one down too in a second. Because I've seen that happen a lot of times, and if kids already know the number fact, that's an efficient strategy, but it doesn't help us support their thinking very
Yeah.
much.
I haven't seen that a lot in kindergarten. They're very like they draw it all
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
I have a select few in my class that will just do a number sentence. Like,
Yeah.
if I just knew like 7 plus 7 is 14,
Mhm.
now I knew the answer.
Yeah, which is great, but when we ask them to show where the numbers came from, then it gives them a way to demonstrate their thinking to their peers and to you as a
Yeah.
teacher. So on the end here, in conclusion, it gives 3 ways to build a community of pattern hunters, and it says share math-related literature, pose questions that invite children to observe closely, like what patterns do you notice, what do you predict, how can you show this pattern, which I think works for multiplication too. We want them to
Mhm.
be able to see the patterns in groups of things.
Yeah.
And then the third thing was encourage children to present patterns in different ways, like drawings, arrows, loops, charts. Those are some of the examples they gave. There was one book that I thought looked like a good one. It's called The Father Who Had 10 Children. I thought that would be good for groups of 10 probably.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but it sounded like a good one. All right, so did I add my questions? What do you predict? What patterns do you notice? how can you show this pattern? I'm not sure how can you show this pattern. I'm not really seeing that happening in this lesson.
No, not really. I mean, not with the numbers that I've
Yeah,
chosen.
yeah. And
Are
just
you-
because of their really concrete understandings at this point, probably. What were you thinking, Meredith?
Are those like your numbers you're using for the?
It's the ones that we've come up with. We can
Okay.
change them if we need to.
I was
And
just
I have
wondering.
one more that's like a challenge problem. 'Cause I
Oh,
don't-
are you meeting in here? Okay. Yeah, but that's okay. That's what happens when we use a common space. It's okay. Okay. So, I just wanted to do a little bit more studying, and I'm glad I did, because I think that if we keep coming up with a list of questions, that's gonna be useful.
Okay.
So now we're gonna move, these are notes from our last session, so take a second and just review over those. I kind of typed them up because my notes were a little crazy. So we might refer back to that as we're planning.
Okay.
And I think we're ready to jump into planning a lesson, okay? So, here's a template for planning. The standard, have you looked at what the standard is for kindergarten yet? Or sorry, your first grade, what the grouping standard is? for
No,
first
but I
grade?
can look it up.
Do you have it on your phone to look really quickly, or should I try to pull it up here? Or your computer,
Yeah.
whatever's the quickest. We'll have a race, whoever can get to
We'll see.
first grade math standards first.
Do you want me to pull up kindergarten or?
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, kindergarten, I found kindergarten. Develop initial understanding. Okay, this is one where it came up, this is probably not the best. Develop initial understanding of place value and base 10 number systems by showing equivalent forms of whole numbers as groups of tens and ones. No, that's not a good one. Work with equal groups of objects to gain foundations for multiplication. That's it.
Where did?
Oh, that's in grade 2. So groups of didn't come up in,
I think that their standard, Mary Beth was telling me, is working within tens.
yeah.
I'm not sure what they exactly hit on, but I'm looking
Yeah, I'm not sure that, I think we're just laying the
for it.
foundation.
Yeah, I don't
with
think there's
this.
a solid standard, cause it's, like they have to be able to count to 100, count to
Yeah.
tens, and.
Yeah, I don't think there is one, because I searched for multiplication and groups of, and, well, they might have something about skip counting, or, what else, how else would it come up? Because skip counting or counting by tens, that kind of gets at it.
Group starts in second grade.
Right. Groups of,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, where they get at multiplication. Yeah, and in grade 2, it's skip counting by 5s, 10s, and 100s. So, yeah, because I know I've seen first graders doing skip counting. Have you seen that in your
Like,
number?
counting
Like
by
counting by
five.
5s,
Fives,
counting by
yeah.
10s?
We started that in kindergarten.
Really?
Yeah. I know 5 is really hard for
Yeah.
them, so we've been practicing every morning, but they can do their 10s
Wow.
really well.
Okay, that seems like foundational knowledge that we might want to build on. And since they know about counting by tens, that might help them understand groups of 10,
Okay.
right?
I've seen it with a few kids, like maybe 2 or 3 have been able to do groups of 10 on their paper. I just know it's not like every student is really, really great yet.
Yeah.
Because it is beyond a little.
Yeah,
But
so what's your story problem that
my story problem
your group came up with?
is we're doing insects. We're starting insects
Okay.
this week.
Cool.
So, my first one would be there are 2 flowers in the field. Each flower has 4 ladybugs. How many ladybugs are there total? So she says she usually starts with smaller numbers, and then we'll maybe do some 5s, and then she'll do like a challenge problem as where there are 3 flowers in the field. Each flower has 10 ladybugs. How many ladybugs are there total?
Yeah.
Which is similar to what they do on their homework, because I helped one of our students with her homework on Friday. She didn't do it during the week. And it was like there are 6 school buses. Each school bus has 10 kids. How
Wow.
many kids are there total? And that was
Wow.
one of their homework problems. So I know that they have
Okay.
experience
Yeah.
with it.
Wow, that's, considering that it's not in the standards really until 2nd grade,
Mhm.
that's pretty impressive that they're doing that.
They're
work.
working on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what have you seen?
So every day we have like a number on the board that's
Uh-huh.
like gets bigger each day, like so
Mhm.
151.
Right.
Today it's 152. And so each day we count what's 1 more than 152, what's 1 less
Right.
than, and then what's 10 more, and then what's 10 less than.
Uh-huh.
So they're usually able to distinguish, 10 more than 152 is
Uh-huh.
162. And they're pretty fluent with counting by tens.
Nice.
Within 100, they're pretty confident in that. When
Uh-huh.
it gets beyond that, they get a little bit
Yeah.
confused, kind of like
Yeah.
we saw with the counting circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Getting from like 190 to
Right.
200 was
Yeah.
really difficult
Yeah,
for every
for sure.
student. So within 100, I think they're pretty good at that still.
Okay. So your problem is you have blank boxes of cookies. There are blank cookies in each box. How many cookies do you have altogether? Okay.
Mhm.
3 and 7? Wow.
That would be challenging because I
Yeah.
know some kids, I was thinking more of like my kids who would do that really quickly. Like they're not
Mhm.
used to counting by 7, so it would take them some time
Yeah, they would definitely
to figure
draw
it
it
out.
out.
And the other students would be drawing each box, putting 7 cookies in each.
Mhm. And then counting it up.
Yep. And we wanted 1 with groups of 10. So you
Yeah,
have 4
I like
boxes,
that
there are
one.
10 in each. So how many? And I know my more advanced kids will just go 10, 20, 30, 40.
Mhm.
And then with this one, 4 and 12. So you have 4 boxes, there are 12 cookies in each. So with this one, I'm interested to see if they'll just go back, add 2 cookies to the ones they already did, or if they'll have to redraw
Rewrite
it.
it.
Yeah. I
I know
bet.
some of them will think, hey, I just used that 4, and I can go
Mm.
back to this one.
Yeah,
and
that
add
came up in
2.
one of these articles. I can't remember which
Yeah.
one, but most kids didn't realize, and they were older kids, I think, that
Mhm.
most kids didn't realize that they
I'm not
could just.
expecting them to
Yeah,
realize it, but
that'd be interesting if
Yeah.
somebody did. You
Mhm.
definitely could highlight that.
yeah.
Okay, so we have a problem to pose, and you have some idea. Did you talk about how students might solve that? their problem?
I talked about it, and she said that I talked with Miss Lazowski and my mentor teacher, and they said that a lot of kids will explicitly draw every circle
Yeah.
and put the number of dots in each one,
Yeah.
and that there are a few kids who, if it comes to 5s or 10s, and I saw this, there one student who can make a circle and will just put a 10 in it and then
Mhm.
count by 10s.
Mhm.
I've only seen that with one student.
Mhm.
She said most of them will solve it by just explicitly drawing, and they do also solve it with cubes. I've noticed this too,
Mhm.
and my mentor teacher has talked about the transfer between, they solve it with cubes, so they have the answer, but then they go in anyways and they redo all of their work and draw all the circles again. So she said that she sees that a lot in kindergarten.
Definitely not efficient.
Yeah.
It gives them a way to show their work.
Yeah.
And I guess it answers that question, is there another way you could solve this problem?
Yeah.
So they're already kind of doing that.
Yeah.
So you have blank boxes of cookies, and yours is about ladybugs. Is there a reason that cookies,
Just interest.
kids like
love
cookies?
food. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Um,
we can change it if.
Well, I don't know if it would be if we would get more insights if we had them be more similar, or if it really matters. Like, it might not matter. You're about to start a unit on insects, so I think that really made sense for
Mhm.
yours.
Mhm.
And the cookies is a student interest, so that works too. Do you do a lot of food problems in math?
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of them involve food or buying things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there a content, like a connection to something you're studying?
We're
that you think
doing
would
like
be
a
interesting?
Cinderella unit, and so I was trying to think like what could I do
Yeah.
for that. But I feel like they'll be able to visualize
Yeah, the
a box
cookies.
of cookies.
Yeah,
and know
that's
that
true.
there's like however many.
Okay.
in there.
All right, so the big idea that we're trying to get them to think about is groups of. And when you think about that, are there any words? Maybe let's think about a student-friendly objective. What do you think the I can statement would be?
I'm just gonna ramble. I
Yeah.
can count groups of 10. I can.
But it's not
Or
always
not,
gonna
I
be
can
10.
count
by
groups of
groups.
numbers.
Groups of numbers, I can count groups of numbers. That's probably reasonable.
Do you have anything better, Miriam?
I can count groups of numbers, I like that. So are there any words in there that we might need to define for kids? Do you think they know what groups means?
Definitely.
Yeah, because like reading groups. and
Okay.
table
Yeah.
groups.
Ah.
Groups of numbers.
Oh, I like the connection you
Mhm.
just made though.
Yeah.
So that might be useful to mention. Groups, like table groups and reading groups. And it's just helpful to think of things in terms of a group,
Mhm.
right? And so that might be useful.
Yeah, I think they'll relate to that pretty easily.
Okay, what do students already know about this topic, and what evidence do we have of this knowledge? You already talked about that a little bit. Anything else that you want to add in terms of, you've seen them like counting by tens? You've seen them on their homework, they actually
Yes.
had that kind of problem.
I see it is on their homework because we check it every Friday, and then the students who don't have it completed have to do it before Fun Friday. So I worked with like 4 kids yesterday who all had that math problem.
Okay. What did you notice as they were trying to solve that problem?
There's one student who is really great at math, and he did not need any help at all. He drew circles, wrote 10 in them. And then there was one student where she couldn't visualize it, so we moved over to the number chart, and we eventually figured out counting by tens would probably be the best because she was going to draw 60 circles. And then, but she struggled a lot. Like, she couldn't write 60, she wrote 16. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just such a wide range in that class.
Yeah, I feel that too.
So the number chart can be useful.
Yes, our like big thing that we
Mhm.
count every day.
Yeah.
Um,
And the.
But our number line only goes to 20. So for the like smaller ones, like there are 2 flowers, each flower has 4 ladybugs. That's
Mhm.
easier, and they will use their number line. But
How would they use their number line for a problem
for
like
groups, yeah,
So I have a
no,
kid who
they
relies
wouldn't.
on the number line, so I'm interested
Mhm.
to see what he
yeah,
does with this
because
problem.
a lot of my kids use it for addition and subtraction. I've never seen
Mhm.
like a CGI groups of problem before.
So this
I
is
don't
new
think I have
territory.
either, so.
New territory.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
blame your mentor. She's the one who suggested this.
Okay.
She thought it would be a good one, so hopefully it will be a good one for your
Yeah.
kids.
I
I'm
know
sure it
that
will be.
Mrs. Williams told me they did one on Monday. I wasn't here, but it was like during a replacement, and she said that she had a lot of trouble with it. So I think it is still, it's like our weakest area in
Yeah.
math because it's not necessarily within our standard,
Mhm.
but it's something that they, like, it's building that knowledge
Yeah.
for them. So, and Mrs. Lazowski was like, they can do it. Like, I've seen them do it. It's just
Mhm.
harder.
Well, good. We want something that's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
So what do you think makes it harder for kids?
I think that it's less like they rely really heavily on counting on their fingers, and they rely really heavily on the number line, and even if it's in a word problem they can do it, but I think that it's just a different concept. Like it's more than
It's
just adding on.
multiplication.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's multiplying.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I think that it's just they get caught up in it. I don't really know
Well,
because I
let's
haven't
see what we can
seen.
figure
Yeah, I
out.
haven't seen
We'll
what
see what we can figure out
they get
about
stuck
it.
on.
I could see some of mine writing or drawing out each box and putting like all their cookies in the box,
Yeah.
but not knowing how to write the numbers in terms.
Yeah.
I could see them doing
Okay.
3 plus 7 equals 21 and not
Oh.
realizing that it's multiplication symbol.
Well,
Mm.
actually, we don't wanna go for multiplication symbol.
We don't.
No, not in kindergarten or
So
first
just
grade.
having like
It could be like
numbers
3 plus 3 plus 3
Mm.
equals,
or
7 plus
7
7 plus 7
equals.
equals. And,
Okay.
yeah, so in this one, it would be 3 boxes of cookies, 7 in
7.
each box, so it would be 7 plus 7 plus 7, right?
Okay.
If they were to do a number sentence, I don't think we
I
need
know
to
some
push
of
them to
them
that,
will
but if they
try to write one
do,
just because they always try to solve it and they write a number sentence.
Yeah.
This is what I should be able to do, but.
Right.
So.
so really, in their mind, we're getting them to see that multiplication is adding groups of.
It's repeated addition.
It is repeated, yeah, that's a good way to think about it, repeated addition.
I won't get into that.
Yeah.
It's a
But-
30-minute lesson.
But you'll have it
so.
in your own head, and so if things come up where kids are trying to figure out like how to write the number sentence, you have it in your own head that you can talk about it as this plus this plus this.
Don't even go to the
Repeated.
multiplication symbol.
No, don't go there yet. Not, yeah. Okay, so we got some possible ways that kids might try solving this problem.
Mhm. I think the misconception that I thought of was the number sentence for the next,
Okay,
part.
where am I? Oh, I lost that page, there it is, okay. All right, so misconception was the
Number sentence.
number sentences, yeah, for sure. What other misconceptions do you think kids might have?
I really think that because we do so many addition and subtraction problems, they might just try and add and subtract rather than
Like add these two
grouping.
numbers
Yeah,
3 plus
together.
7.
I think
plus 10.
that-
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
not following what the problem was asking.
Mhm.
But then I also know that if we were to all sit at the carpet and go through it together gradually, they would grasp on. I think it's when you let them go and solve it on their own.
Mhm.
It'll be harder for some students to make groups rather than.
Mhm. So this is something that's always a conundrum with a CGI problem. How much should you model
Right.
versus just turning them loose with it? What have you seen on this type of problem?
I see that my teacher will always make sure that they understand the problem. Like if it is an addition problem, they know that you're going to add the numbers or subtraction. And then she has them go off and then she uses kind of her students to help
Right.
teach the class different strategies to use.
Mhm.
And we'll show like this is one strategy, this is another strategy that this student used.
Right.
This student had the right idea in mind, didn't get the right answer. How can we help him
Mhm.
figure out what he was trying to do?
Yeah.
So really using students' work as
Yeah.
teaching moments.
So instead of modeling,
I've
letting
never seen
them
her
give it a
model.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, give it a go and then use the student work as examples. But making sure they really understand the problem. They might need a visual like in yours, like box of cookies
I was actually
with
thinking like I
7
should probably
cookies
get
in
like
there.
some sort of concrete
Either
thing
concrete
that they can
or
all
a
see.
picture,
Or picture, yeah.
so that they really understand what you mean by,
This is one box
Yeah.
I'm filling in. This
Yeah.
one. I have another box. Yeah. I think that would help with,
Yeah.
especially with my ELOs. Giving them
yeah.
something concrete.
Okay. What might motivate students to learn about this topic? Consider cookies. You already decided cookies, and you decided that the ladybugs would be a nice connection for them because
They're
it's a
like in our
curriculum.
our emergent reader this week and
Nice.
so.
So they're gonna have some background knowledge
Mhm.
about it.
Mhm.
So that makes sense. We talked about cookies. We talked about the connection to the content. Okay, we're one step ahead of the game because says what learning experiences might help students develop understanding of this topic, and you were talking about having some kind of visual for
Mhm.
them or concrete objects.